Hey guys, I'm here in my tack shed out at the ranch after an afternoon of chores and pasture maintenance work, all these things I love so much. I love spending time out here, just getting my hands in the dirt and getting an eye on the pasture and the animals, and being out here immersed in Mother Nature. So I'm so happy to record this session, this coaching session from here. Specifically, what I want to visit with you about today is the energy we put into our horse or our herd, and how if we remove our energy, that can be the most powerful strategy, or that can be the most powerful thing we could do. Now, it always depends on what our goal is, or what our intention is, or what our ideal of success is, right? So that's something that we have gone over, and that you guys have done some things around. And so clarity on your desired outcome with your horse, big picture, as well as in that moment, in that particular moment, is very important regarding today's session about energy, right? So the thing I do know is that if you're here with me, you are already using energy. You're already connected to energy when it comes to horses and life. And that's something that is an important factor for you. So I do know that you understand that, and that you embrace it, and that it's a big part of your interaction with your horses or herd as well, if you're here with me. But it is very important to know what your ideal outcome is, because that's going to empower you. So for instance, if your overall goal is to gain a more authentic relationship with your horse, is to, let's say we peel back another layer and let's dig a little deeper, is maybe the overall goal is to have a happy, stress-free horse. Maybe that's at the root of everything you do. That certainly is at the root of everything for me, is a happy, stress-free horse or herd. So I'm going to move forward with that in mind today as I talk to you about the energy and removing the energy and the power of that. So, ponder it a little bit more if you haven't. Maybe think about, is there another layer you can peel back when it comes to your goals? Because of course we all want that relationship and connection with our horse, but this journey that I'm on, and I believe that so many of you who are drawn to join the Horse and Soul tribe and to my work, is about something deeper even. It's actually more about, at its core, empowering our horses to have their voice and to have happy, stress-free horses. So again, that's my core goal. I'm real clear on that. And so everything that I do, whether it's in the moment with something more specific in that moment, like tacking up, mounting my horse to go for a trail ride, opening a gate, haltering, bringing them in for feeding time. Those are things, of course, in the moment that I'll use some real specific actions or things for. But overall, it's always in the back of my mind, and I guess not in the back of my mind, I'd say in the front of my heart, that before anything else, more importantly than anything else, I'm real clear. I want my horse to be happy and stress-free. So, okay, so that being said, let's get into the energy. Some specific examples of where energy can be stressful for horses or maybe cause burnout are given in my research in where I collected data from the equine therapy industry during my graduate studies. And specifically, one of my studies was on the therapy horse burnout. So horses can burn out, especially when they have jobs that require a lot of them with people who need them so much for the outcomes intended for the organization or for the bigger picture. And one of my findings specifically is that they can burn out. Oh, I hear Mambo here. I gotta show you guys. He's sort of peeking around the corner, joining us. I always love having him here with me. Okay, so yes, therapy horses can burn out, specifically when there's not enough awareness of the energy that is being put on them. A specific example is maybe they're going in for a session, and oftentimes based on the facility setup and the facilities available, the facilitators or the manager of who's handling the herd may bring the horses in. Say if there's a full day of sessions, may bring them all in either to a barn or a holding area, so to speak. And my personal experience has been, for instance, in a barn where the tacking up and then the untacking and grooming and post-session care for horses is all done in a central location where clients, volunteers, everybody is at. And again, that's just because of the that was for the facility setup. So what I personally experienced as an empath, as an animal communicator, somebody who can feel the feelings that the animals are feeling in a way that is really highlighted, maybe exaggerated. If you can imagine, or if you know the on TV shows I've seen or on movies I've seen, the description of a hearing aid. If somebody puts in a hearing aid because they can't hear it all without it, so they put it in and then they turn it up, and when they turn it up, it's a real high-pitched just stream of noise that overshadows everything else. That is my experience if I'm in the space of animals who are in distress and it's not being heard, it's not being acknowledged. And so, for instance, in the situations where multiple horses and lots of human energy, clients, for instance, and volunteers, and just a lot of things going on where the horses are tied, cross-tied, tied, and they can't move, they can't choose, and they've got all this energy descending upon them. And then they go into a session, an equine therapy session, and of course that can be very intense in its own way with the energy. And then afterwards to be back in that space where they're tied or cross-tied and they've got all that energy coming at them. That's the type of situation where I, as a person who feels the energy and communicates with the animals in that way, have felt that high-pitched noise, like you're turning up that hearing aid and like they're screaming at me, and it's just distress. and like nobody can hear them. And these horses will often look like they're calm, and if you ask somebody, hey, do you think these horses are stressed out? They'll say, no, that horse, see how relaxed they are? And on the surface, if you're looking for just body language, you might believe that. Energetically, though, that's not true. And in fact, the studies that I did had consistent data show up from facilitators and leaders within the equine therapy industry that said that very simply removing horses from the space after a session, or making sure they don't have to interact before a session, they don't have a bunch of energy focused on them, people coming in to groom them, tack them, that kind of thing, or just all the discussion and excitement that can come around when you have clients and volunteers and things gathering in the space. You remove that, and if you remove the all that stuff for afterwards, a lot of clients will ask, can we say goodbye, or their families, can we come and give carrots, can we help groom, and that seems and feels like a very loving thing to offer, and because the only intention from people who offer, of course, the equine therapy programs is so loving and so healing. But unfortunately, what happens for the horses is it's just too much. And the data that I gathered from the equine therapy industry was that this shows up, this, if we want to give it the overarching term or label of burnout, it shows up in ways like horses not wanting to be haltered or brought in, running versus coming to you, running away. What people would call nasty behaviors, where the horse is maybe nipping or biting or ears back or just won't move in sessions when they do come in. They're expressing their druthers. They're expressing their opinion in those moments. And it's gotten to a place where they're simply saying no. And sometimes they're saying hell no. Because they haven't been heard prior to that. So energy and really paying attention to where can we remove energy from our horses, whether we operate a big organization, a therapy organization, a rescue organization, a trail riding organization, or we have our own herd, or maybe it's a boarding facility and there are group scenarios, that kind of thing, or people, work and groom and tack up and ride and do all their activities sort of in a shared space. Simply asking ourselves, what are the places we can, I call it just removing human energy. So keep it as natural as possible. Remove human energy from the space. Maybe call it a safe space for the horse. If it's for tacking up, maybe it's simply as if you're not in here tacking up your horse, grooming that horse, whether you're getting them ready for a session, a therapy session, your own personal session, a training session of any kind. If it would, maybe a rule could be one horse, one person kind of a thing. And then when they're done, if it's a session situation with a trainer, with a group, or a therapy type session, then the data shows that taking the horse back to their herd, which ideally is in a pasture environment with a with more herd members, getting them back to that more natural environment that they feel comfortable in, feeds them, and getting them out of that energy of the session and the space of the humans as quickly as possible, rather than having them be subjected to more intense energy being put on them, can be a powerful way to turn around a horse that is showing signs of being unhappy or stressed. And again, that's going to show up in behaviors like biting, nipping, ears back, sometimes head slinging, sometimes a lot of yawning to release tension, every horse will be different, but rather than try and fix these kind of behaviors, which is sort of the standard in so many aspects or areas of horsemanship, what I've found through research and also my own personal experience is just taking a step back or removing the horse from the more sort of unnatural situation, or all that human energy, and that can be the most powerful thing that can bring a horse back to stress-free and happy, rather than doing a bunch of things to try and fix it in that mindset. Then how can I, if the question always is how can I help my horse be happy or stress-free, definitely removing the human energy from the situation, I have found is a core way that can, or a core strategy that can be really powerful. Okay, so the how, that's why you're here, the how. And I want to share some examples with you on that, on how you can do that specifically, how, situations you might find yourself in where that can be useful. So first let's talk about gaits. For example, if I'm coming in and my herd, my horse and my steer Mambo, who you saw earlier, happen to live in a herd of horses that belong to various people, so we come and we feed them at different times. So if I'm the first one to show up that day, often what will happen is the other horses in the herd are coming over my way, coming toward me, coming to my gate, I have a space like a corral, but bigger, just a space where I have my tack shed, and then I have my I use electric fencing, and I created a space so that my guys, that Jesse and Mambo, can eat in peace. And that's where I do my tacking up and my grooming and hanging out with them, and yoga and meditation, and today filming. But so the rest of the herd, if they're not already being fed, they often will come over and want to come in and kind of gather at that gate. Now, so one strategy could be to bring out my string that I carry around with me. For instance, I always carry this handy string around on my belt loop. That's one of the things that I learned to do as around the ranch. I always have that thing, I always have that string available, and boy does it come in handy. So what I could do is I could take it out and I could start helicoptering it or swinging it, or I could tag all these animals. Say I've got 6 or 7 other animals out there, or more depending on the size of herd that you're in. Well, that's a lot of energy I'm putting into it, right? There's a lot of energy I'm putting on these animals. Surely that would work as far as my goal. If my goal is to get my guys in, be able to drive in my gate and get them fed. Now, on the flip side, let's talk about what I could do if I said, well, I want happy, stress-free animals. I want it to be as calm and tension-free in my space with, as far as what I bring to the table with my animals and any animals I interact with. And big picture, I want happy, stress-free interaction, and I want happy, stress-free animals. So what is it I could do on the opposite end of the spectrum if I thought about how could I remove energy? How could I put the least amount of energy into being able to get my animals in, to feed them through the gate and drive in? Well, this is what I've learned. I'll usually, if that's the case, I'll stop. I'll get out of my vehicle and I'll go ahead and just walk right into my space and start fixing my guys' food and setting it up. I prefer to do that anyway, because then when I open it up, then they're set up and I can just put them where their food is, or get out of the way and allow them to go where their food is. And then there's a lot less possibility of any kind of stress or tension with them. So then that eliminates a lot of the behaviors you can see around food that that will come up with horses or with livestock. Just basically what I'm doing by getting out of my vehicle, leaving it right there, and then going to make my food, I'm letting them work it out. So by the time I get back to my gate and I need to let my guys in, usually there'll be no other horses standing there as well. They will have figured out to go on. They will have had their moment and just moved on out of the way, because they are not used to coming into my space to eat. So they'll work it out amongst themselves. Maybe there'll be one. Now what I'm left with is my guys know they're coming in. And let's say there's one horse that's still hanging at my gate. Then what I'm going to do is I assess the position of that horse and my guys. Now, if that horse is standing in a position or in a place that allows me to open my gate, and if it's an electric gate, which mine is, I just hold it taut so that it doesn't hang down, and I can just very easily, with my energy, block that horse or move that horse back a little bit if I need the space to open. And if my guys just so happen to be available based on where they're standing, so that I could open that gate, block that one horse that's left, and let them walk on through, that's what I do. Now, that technique or that strategy or that approach really is something that I learned largely from the 5 years I worked with the cattle. I heard of about 150 head. It was myself and my mentor, a Paniolo here on Oahu, who was a master stockman, master horseman, and it was just the two of us. And I got to spend those years with him, and he taught me, and this herd of cattle taught me so much. And eventually I was largely managing that herd by myself when he got sick. So what I learned from them, because such a large herd of livestock, the way you set yourself up is very important and key. Having your gates and your environment set up, having your water where it needs to be, having the fencing in order, having it in good shape, not having problems with your fencing, and having gates set up, and then getting out of the way is really important. I learned that from working with that big herd, because if you put energy where it's not useful, very quickly you have a scattered herd that makes your job a lot harder, and oftentimes it's not recoverable, so you just got to wait till the next day. So this working gates with cattle really taught me about what I'm talking to you about here. My mentor, Sammy, used to say, I used to ask him about, his what his experiences in life and what brought him to what he was doing. And also I just always was asking, because I wanted to learn from him as much as I could. So, but his answer anytime I would ask about this work was, it's simple. It's all about the drive line. That's his answer. And that's really basically what this is about. What I'm talking to you about is, I don't have to drive away the other 5 horses that come over, let's say, or if it was 20 horses. I can just go, I can busy myself with making my food up and leave them be. Pretty quickly they're going to figure out, work it out, do their thing energetically. It doesn't make sense for them to hang out at my gate, because they never come in and get fed here. So what I've discovered is that pretty quickly they're going to just move on. There might be 1 or 2 stragglers, but then I can use the drive line. Then I can use the energy to, in a very calm, relaxed, and stress-free way, get my guys in and block them. Now, if it just so happens that they are, you know, in a space or standing in a place where if I open my gate, that the horse that is hanging around would come right through, if that's the situation. If, say, I'd block my guys and that guy would come through if I just simply open the gate, well, in that case, I'm going to take a moment and, you know, if I have my rope with me or my string, which I carry on my belt loop that I mentioned earlier, then I am going to, I don't sort of usually go at them with my energy at first. I'll helicopter or overhanded swing, and usually they'll move on. And if they don't, then I just get in there, tag them one good time. I use the drive line based on, like, for instance, if I want them, if they're standing with their back in towards me, I tag them on the back end. But I think about that, where the drive line is, when I'm using this, when I am going to put energy into it. But I just let them know, real business-like, basically, you can move on. And then I just can open the gate and let my guys in. But what I have found, and I love to still experiment with this, because, you know, every day is a lesson. Every day I'm learning from the animals. What I have found is that if I just stay out of it, largely, if I task myself with staying out of it energetically, or removing my energy, or backing off in a situation, rather than going in sort of guns a-blazing, swinging ropes, or, you know, you'll see people yelling things. That brings a lot of energy to this space that's really unnecessary. And what I learned so much from working with the cattle all those years is, when I look at the end result, I'll often look back these days and I'll ask myself, if I had done nothing, would the outcome have been any different? And it's interesting to experiment with that. In other words, if I didn't put my energy into this space, what would the outcome have been? And what I have found with my horse in particular, and my relationship with my horse, is the less I do, and the more I find opportunities to get out of her way, or not put my energy on her, or not try and fix things by doing, by, you know, task-oriented sort of mindset. If I instead approach her in a way that is always with gratitude, always asking her, show me, you know, show me, teach me, and, like, you know, maybe if it's just her and it's time to go out, for instance, through that gate, back to the gate conversation, maybe I'll open the gate and see what she does, and then let her choose on her timeline. So maybe she's gonna come through, or, you know, maybe she'll come over and stop and say hello to me and be happy for a nice little wither scratching, or maybe she'll choose not to come out. And all of those things I'm grateful for, and all those moments I would be happy to have her give me her opinion or her druthers. And the really wonderful thing about that is, that's one of the simplest ways you can have your horse teach you, that you can learn how to communicate with your horse on a deeper level, or on that energetic level, is simply, you know, hey, you're done eating. Come out of the gate. I'm preparing myself to go. Let's see what you think about this. Do you want to come out of the gate? You open the gate, get out of their way, and just stand there. It's almost like a meditation. You know, you might open up your halter, hold it in position for them to put their nose through. Do you want to come in? Do you want to put your nose in here? or do you not? Now, that means removing any opinion of what the end result should be. It's just a inquiry. So that's some of the important stuff we can do with ourselves, because we might find that we're uncomfortable or impatient, and that's just powerful information to have. It's something to know and observe about yourself, but remembering not to be hard on yourself, because again, that will bring tension, that will bring the opposite of relaxation, and that doesn't serve you or your horse. So there's so many situations where you can choose to remove your energy, whether it be with the herd at feeding time, or with your horse in situations like feeding time, or coming through a gate, haltering, bridling, simply just needing to ask your horse to move a little bit, move on a couple steps forward, a couple steps back, because you're cleaning their feet or something like that. In every instance, there's an opportunity to ask yourself, hey, can I remove my energy here? And would that be useful? So let's continue the conversation in the group, in the community. Feel free to send me a private message on Facebook or via email, or post it in the group community. Let's continue the conversation. Where are you already removing energy to, and how's that, showing you powerful results? And what did you take away from this visit on the power of removing energy? And yeah, share that and ask any questions. Please ask any questions that you have. I love to engage and interact on this stuff. And if you share your specific questions, or if it's sort of just the whole thing is not making a lot of sense to you, please share that as well, so that we can continue that conversation. And if you have very specific situations with your herd or your horse, and this has sparked some questions or thoughts about that, please keep that conversation going, and get in touch with me on it, like I said, through the group or private messenger or email, and I'll get back to you, and I look forward to continuing the discussion on energy.